Hey guys, it's Shokz here, and this is the third and final video of the Starcraft 2 race comparison guide. One thing with Zerg, in this video we're going to be talking about Zerg, and the most important thing to know about Zerg is all about a numbers game. Everything about them is lots of numbers, big armies, with a lot of expendable units, so basically you're in battle and your units get taken out, you just create more units, because unlike Terran and Protoss, they don't have like a like a complex building system. All their units are built right from their main hatchery, or lair, or hive, depending on which upgrade you have for it. You just select your larvae, and depending on which buildings you have, it will allow you to produce any of your units. The only unit that cannot be produced from your hatchery is your queen. Or, I mean, not from larvae. The only unit that is produced from your actual hatchery is your queen. Once you have a spawning pool, you can produce right from your hatchery a queen. And a queen is probably the single most important unit in the Zerg race. Because what the queen does is, it's like the economic booster. For example, if I show you this hatchery. A hatchery will only have 3 larvae at a time. So you can only build 3 units at one time until you build them and new larvae will spawn. Which sometimes you'll see a newer player, you'll see them building a second hatchery right next to their old or their main one, which is not a good idea. That's not something you ever want to do. Instead, you just want to take that hatchery and build it at your natural expansion. That way you can start collecting resources from it. Or the big thing, if you're going off one base, this is where your queen is extremely important. Queen has the ability to spawn larvae, which what it will do, it will cast it on the hatchery or hive, and it's a 40-second cast, and it's gonna spawn after you see the timer going down. After 40 seconds, it's gonna spawn 4 additional larvae. And as you can see here, I've already used it, and you can allow it to build up, so I can have like 50 larvae at one time if I don't build any units. But queen is just very, very important to the Zerg economy, because again, Zerg's all about numbers, so you need to have a good, strong economy. That way you can quickly keep producing units. So if you're in battle and you and your opponent basically go out into a draw where you guys both lose your entire army, Zerg can quickly reproduce their units really fast. It's just how Zerg is. The only one of the things you'll notice with Zerg is how they build. If you guys see this gooey liquid stuff, that's called creep, and it's actually very important. It's with Zerg, you can only build structures on creep, kind of like with Protoss with their pylon cannons. You can't build the structures off creep, but you can build them on. You can also, and other races cannot build on creep also. So that's actually important to know. But the one building that can be built off creep is a hatchery. Hatcheries can be built anywhere, but again, you only want to build hatcheries at expansions. There's no reason to ever build a hatchery just randomly in your base, because I know people, they're like, oh, I need more larvae, so I build another hatchery so I can try and produce more units. But no, that's where your queen comes in. You should always be spamming spawn larvae. As soon as that's finished and the larvae pop out, you should have your queen hotkeyed 4V and just be casting it again. That's just something you guys have to get used to with Zerg, because again, that's very, very important for the economy. The next thing about Zerg is their supply. I shouldn't say supply building, but it's actually a unit where with Terran you have supply depots, and Protoss you have pylons that increases your food count or supply count. With Zerg you have overlords, which are these slow, big flying units, and for every time you create one, it increases your supply count, and they can fly across the map. They don't do any damage. They're kind of just like there. You can use them to scout, but the only problem is a lot of new players, they'll take them into scout early game, and if a stalker or marine pops out before you have their speed upgrade, which you can't get until you have a lair, they can be shot down real easily, and that can hurt your supply count early game. So you have to be careful how you place them. A lot of times you just want to place them in corners or around the map where you can see if your opponent's coming, but on cliffs where they can't be attacked, because they are really important not to let your overlords be killed. One feature you can use with your overlords that you'll see a lot in later games is they have the ability to generate creep. This will also help create and creep highways, and you can also use this to block off expansions. So if this little overload comes right here and starts spewing creep, he's going to drop creep, and this will not allow your opponent to make say a nexus or command center until he brings something over here and kills this overlord. Staying with creep, the queen also has the ability to, besides spawn larvae, which is again one of the most important abilities you're going to have and need to utilize all the time, they have this ability called spawn creep tumor, and which is what one of these things are. I'll try to show you right here. If you toss down a creep tumor, what it's going to do, it's going to build a creep tumor on the map, and then you can use one creep tumor. You only need one. I have two right here, but I just want to show you guys that the queen is one tosses it down. Once the creep tumor is finished building, it's going to start spreading, and these things are invisible once they're built. If they're being built, your opponent can see them, but once they're built, they need a detector to see them. And as you see, the creep is spawning, and I can then take this creep tumor and cast another creep tumor from it. So I can then put a creep tumor down here, and that one's going to die, and it's going to stop generating creep. But then once this one's finished building, it's going to generate creep. And as you guys can imagine, I can continue to do so and build an entire Zerg highway, or a creep highway, all the way up to my opponent's base, which is really important because Zerg benefits from creep because it allows them to move like 20% faster. So if you're battling with your opponent, like I said, Zerg, it's all about numbers. You'll be producing units and reinforcing your army with the new units, and with a creep highway, it's going to allow your reinforcements to get to your army a lot quicker, which is really important. Another ability that all Zerg players have, or all Zerg units have, I mean, is you have to upgrade it from your lair or hatchery, and it's called Burrow. And what it does is it allows any of your units to go underground, and this is really nice. All Zerg units can do this once you research the upgrade, because it makes them invisible, so you can wait for your opponent to walk by you, or you also get a slight health regeneration while you're burrowed. So if you just been in battle and you need to drop and you have a few surviving units, you can burrow and have their health regen while you continue to build up your army. The next thing with
field depleted.
Some of the negatives about Zerg is, well, this is also positive, but it can also be a negative for some players. Their build structure is very simple. You have your hatchery, and you have to build all your units right from your hatchery. And depending on what units I can build, just depends on what I have. Here I can build Hydralisks because I have a Hydralisk den. Unlike with Terran or Protoss, you build like that unit's building. You don't create it from that building. You still create it. This just allows the hatchery to build that unit. So with Terran, if I wanted to build a Banshee, I would have to create a starport. But with Zerg, I just create a Hydralisk den, which allows me to build Hydralisks. Or I could create a Spire, which will allow me to create Mutalisks and then Corruptors. So, and again, they're all made right from your hatchery. And this is why your queen is so important, to always be spawning your larvae, so you have the ability to just keep and reinforcing units. And as you guys can see, anytime if an extractor costs only 25 gold, minerals I mean, but you have to remember that the drone costs 50 minerals to make the drone, and since that drone's being consumed, so buildings are a little bit cheaper, but overall it all equals out in the end. And then one of the bad things about Terran players Zerg players for new players is that you're not able to wall your base off, and I know a lot of new players like to wall their base off because they're worried about rushes or their opponent just rushing really early games. So with Terran, they like to do a wall, or Protoss, you can do like a pylon gateway Zealot wall, where with Terran or Zerg, you really don't have the option. One thing you can do is Zerg has these things called spine crawlers, and by putting the spine crawlers down, it's kind of like their own static defense, and you can actually lift them up and plant them elsewhere. if you're worried about a rush, so you can just toss down a spine crawler too. Queen also is good for stopping rushes mid game as backup. You never want to take a queen out and have them fight like in the front. But another thing about Zerg is a lot of players complain about it is they're not really diversified. There's only so many race or unit combinations you can go, unlike with, say, Protoss or mainly Terran, which has a ridiculous amount of unit combinations that you can go. Zerg, you're kind of limited. I'm not sure, like, Blizzard may work on this later, maybe in the upcoming expansions, but right now you can go like speedlings, roaches, speedlings, and mulisks. Just there's not that many different unit combinations that you see later game. Even though they're very good, some players don't like that you can't diversify as much with Zerg as much as you can with Terran, which it just really depends your style. Again, Zerg, it's really all numbers game. Try and get a really good economy. That's why you see a lot of Zerg players expand really quickly. They usually go for like anywhere from like a 13 to 15 hatchery, which would just be an extra expansion. Really early to try to get that early economy boost, because with Zerg it's all about having a good economy, having lots of numbers in your units so you can quickly produce more units to reinforce your army while you're in battle. But Zerg, while Zerg, the initial build structure, once you get the basics down, is pretty easy race. For beginners, I find it may be one of the harder of the three races to get at first, but once you have Zerg down, they are pretty simple. They're not too tough, and they are a really powerful race. So again, I would try out all three races, see which one fits your liking or your playstyle, and then stay with it. You can also, again, try all three races and learn the units of the three races, learn what structures build each race. That way, whenever you're scouting, if you see a structure, you can understand, hey, this guy, my opponent has a factory, that means factory with an army, that means he's either going siege tanks or Thors, and then you can continue scouting him. Because if you just pick one race and only know that race, by you scouting your opponent and seeing that your Protoss opponent has a robotics bay, you're not going to know that he's either going for Colossus or Immortals. So even if you are just gonna, once you find the race, you still want to learn the other races. Just play them enough to learn and see what buildings make which units, and then once you've learned that, stick with one race and get really good at that race. You don't want to just be jumping around different races. Try and get good at all three right off the bat, because it's going to be really tough to master and get really good at all three races. The main thing is just sticking to one race, getting really good with that and comfortable with that race, and then improving the game. So I will talk to you guys next time.